Good morning and welcome everyone to the weekly meeting. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Zor Morales. I'm a realtor out in Hawaii. I completed the program about 2.5 years ago. My wife and I got into real estate at the same time, and we've been loving it. Uh, for those of you who are here for the first time, if you could, if you're in a safe situation, please turn your camera on. And as we're going through the meeting, feel free to contribute. If you have anything to contribute, you can unmute yourself, or you can drop a comment in the chat box, or you can use the reactions button at the bottom of the screen. You raise your hand. Um, and we're continuing our series of realtor schedule architecture. So being very intentional and putting detailed thought into how you plan out your day so that you can get the most out of not only your real estate business, but just life in general, and have a solid approach to each day so that when curveballs come your way, you're in a good place mentally, physically, spiritually. And so last time we took some volunteers for people that are going to share their routine that they currently have, and maybe how they're modifying it for this new chapter, stepping into real estate from the military. And we'll go ahead and kick it off with Chris Wolfram.
Thanks, Sora. You want me to just kind of describe like what my days look like?
Yeah.
So I'll say that it continues to be a work in progress. I've been in the program for about a month now. And so I kind of have drawn from my, experience in the military for how I would structure my day. I just finished The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. If you haven't read that book, I highly recommend it. It's fantastic. I'm going through the 4 Hour Work Week right now by Tim Ferriss, and that's a fantastic book as well. I think there was a training session that Tasha had run, and then there's a couple other videos that are throughout the Skill Bridge, uh, the I guess the learning videos that we go through. And so I've taken kind of a conglomeration of all of that to try and structure my day. So for me, I have a morning routine that is similar every day. And then I have kind of an evening routine as well. Stuff in the middle, will tend to flex depending on what the day is. But I will typically, I'll get up at 6. Um, I, personally, I'm a faith-based Christian, so I pray, I give thanks, and I take about 10 minutes or so to do that. Then I read the Bible for 20 minutes, and then for 30 minutes until 7 o'clock, I read whatever book I'm currently going through. So right now I'm still going through the 4 Hour Work Week. So that takes me from 6 to 7, and that hour-long morning routine is what I do every single day. At 7 o'clock, from 7 to 7:15, I'll do a real quick daily review, which is kind of what I call it. And the intent is to review my 1 year top 3 goals, my monthly goal, my weekly goal, and then to really it should be to review kind of my top 3 priorities for the day to make sure that I keep those at the forefront. And then I'll get into a skill bridge. I'll pop my earbuds in and do a skill bridge video, listen to that. And I'll do that for about 30 minutes or so. And then I'll take the kids to school. That takes 30 minutes. So while I drive them to and from school, I'm also listening to the skill bridge content to get the most out of that. I'll come back, and then again, this is where it kind of starts to flex, but things that are important to me, I'll get in my at least hour-long cold calling, longer if I need to make sure that I get my 100 dials. I'll have skill bridge learning time built in there as well, at least an hour and a half a day, but typically I'll get a little bit more than that. For today, other things that I have added, I have some market reports that I want to go through, some market analysis that I want to dive into as kind of the MLS that I live in for Washington. And so obviously I have this weekly call that's going to be important. And then at the very end of the day, usually about 4:30, I'll do kind of an end of day review, kind of look at my schedule, see how it went, see where I can improve, make sure that my schedule is set for the next day. I'll go over email one more time, messages, I'll check out, I'll do all of that. And then at the very end of the day, my bedtime routine, continues to be a work in progress. In a perfect world, I would be in bed by 10. That rarely happens, unfortunately. So I'm trying to find ways to be more efficient, but really it's to set myself up for success the next day. So if there's small things that I can do to make it quicker when I wake up in the morning so that I can hop on and kind of get right into my day, that's kind of what I'm working for. Again, my schedule is totally a work in progress, and I think it will continue to flex and absolutely change once I move from Oregon up to Washington, where I'll be in my market, and I'll have the opportunity to feed in, obviously, going out and doing work with my mentor, being able to do open houses, be able to talk to folks in person for listings and all that stuff. So it'll definitely shift here in a couple of months after I make that move. But for the time being, that's where I sit. Sorry, that was long. Hopefully
That was perfect.
okay.
Thank you for sharing that, Chris. I just got a couple of questions.
Yeah.
So why do you review your goals in the morning?
Just again, just to keep them at the forefront. It's to make sure that those are, if I'm going to, in keeping kind of with Darren Hardy and really with Tim Ferriss too, for their mantra, which is, if everyone hasn't heard of the Pareto principle, the 20%, the top 20%, and this applies to everything, but essentially 20% is responsible for 80. So 20% of my activities are responsible for 80% of my growth, of my income, of everything. And so if you can boil it down to making sure that those 20% activities are what I'm focusing on, that'll have the greatest chance of success. But again, those goals go back to my vision, which if you haven't set up, kind of a vision board or, a vision statement, I would highly recommend that you do that. There's a ton of good learning in the SkillBridge learning topics there to be able to do that. But if you don't know where you're going, right, you don't know if the path that you're on is a good one. So I've set up my 1 year goals, my 2, 3, 5, 10, all predicated off of my vision. And then again, those 1 year goals of trying to keep that in the forefront. I know that I think David may have had, a video on this, but if you're keeping those at your forefront, that is what that's what you're going to think about. That's what you're going to surround yourself with. That is going to give you the greatest chance of success when it comes to mindset. And I know that David and Tasha have talked about that a lot.
Yeah, that's great. The reason I ask is just so that people understand like the purpose behind that, because it's very powerful. I like to relate things a lot, like from daily life to like physical, to like working out and stuff. And so just imagine you're going for a run and you're like, or like you're at unit PT, you're like, hey guys, today for PT, we're doing a run. And you're like, all right, where are we going? How far? Do I need to bring water with me? What kind of shoes do I need? Are we going to be on a trail? Are we going to be running through water? Or is it just going to be a track? Is it going to be slippery? All that kind of stuff. And so looking at your goals at the beginning of the day sets your mind in the right direction so that you're excited about everything that you do. So if your vision is to have a successful life, have a happy family, all those aspects, then having those goals at the forefront of your mind will give you the motivation to push through any kind of things that most of the time you probably do enjoy. It's like Chris taking his kids to school. He probably enjoys that most of the time, but there's probably some days where he's like, dang it, I wish I could just hire a driver, just take these kids to school because I have all these other things to do. But he has his goals in his mind. He envisions a future where he raises this loving family, kids love him, and they pay forward that love that they've experienced in their household to their children, and all of that plays into setting that direction, looking at the goals at the beginning of the day, so that you know where you're going, and you know that along the way, even those daily tasks, they're important to that long-term, that end state. But yeah, thank you, Chris. And then one other thing I was going to ask you about was, or like just kind of point out was listening to stuff while you're driving. So a lot of times people are like, I don't have time to read books. I don't have time to any of this stuff. But if you were to like actually just for even one day, write down what you're doing hour by hour, you'd realize you're probably wasting a lot of time, or there's a lot of time that you could utilize to multitask. So like I don't have a servant to fold my laundry or to wash my dishes yet, but while I'm doing those things, I can be listening to audiobooks and stuff like that. Just like when you're driving, you can be doing that. But and then also along with wasting time, like if you write down notes of what you're doing throughout the day, you probably waste a lot of time on social media or um, having conversations that aren't really constructive. It's good to have just, catching up with people and stuff, but if you're just kind of gossiping about nonsense, then maybe you should have more intention for those conversations and talk about things that will build you and the other person up rather than just gossiping about what you heard about the news, about the celebrity, whatever things that's going on. Yeah. All right.
Can I add one other comment real
Yeah,
quick?
go ahead.
For the listening, for the in the car, or even when I got it on my computer, I just recently uh, kind of started doing this, but depending on the content and how familiar I am with it, and if I'm taking notes or if I'm just listening, I'll, listen to it at either real time or up to 2 times speed to be able to get through it faster. So if it's something that I'm super familiar with, it's not technical, I just need to get through the data, I'll go through it really quick. If I need to pause and take notes, I'll do that. But I've found that I can get through a lot more stuff, obviously, by doing that. Just something that I hadn't focused on before. So thanks.
Yeah, it's a great point. And something that I've noticed for myself, like everybody's brain works differently. But if I'm like on a bicycle, like a stationary bicycle, or if I'm doing some kind of workout where it's just like redundant, I don't really have too much thought into like how I'm lifting a weight or whatever. If when you crank up that speed, you can also like crank up the speed on your whatever you're doing, and your brain will just like automatically adapt to the speed. And then when you go back to like even 1.5x or 1x, it sounds like the people are just talking in slow motion. But yeah, it's a great way. Cranking up that speed is a great way to knock out a book in half the time. It's almost like time traveling. All righty. Anything else, Chris?
Nope, thanks.
All right, sweet. Thank you for
Anybody have any
sharing.
questions?
Anyone, any questions for Chris and his timeline?
Cool, thanks.
All righty. You can feel free to, if you think of a question later, you can always drop it in the chat box. I dropped the links for the books that he mentioned in the chat box. All right. Up next, looks like the only option is Mr. Lonnie Moon, since everyone else is not going to be here.
Is it all right if I just share my screen and show you my calendar?
Yeah, let me can you already share, or does it say I need to do portion?
All right.
Share screen. There you go.
You see that? Are you able to see it?
Looks good.
All right. Yeah, so this was my day today. Every day I get up at 5 to get ready for my workout. I used to listen to music and stuff while I was working out, but for some reason it feels like the older I get, the more I just want the silence while I'm working out. I went for a run at lunch today instead of doing it early this morning and just solving my problems while I run. But I try to, at least in the morning, try to map out most of the minutes. Like, getting dressed, working out, showering, getting ready for the day, making coffee. If I'm reading that day, I'll read and I'll try to work on my affirmations. And then see there, it says sales X training. It's just something I started 6 months ago about script training and mindsets and all that stuff. It's kind of CBT based, but I go through that every morning. And then at 7:30, I start my lead gen prep, which is importing expireds, importing FSBOs into the system that I use. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have role play at 7:30. They usually last 15 to 20 minutes. And then at 8 o'clock, right away, I start calling expireds to try to be the first every morning. 8 to noon is my lead gen. I try to keep that sacred every day. With very few exceptions, like you can see on Monday. Yesterday, I had a home inspection because I have difficult clients. The only time they had available this week for an inspection was yesterday morning. So I called expires for 15 minutes and then went to a home inspection. But and in the afternoons, I have my afternoons scheduled out. My afternoons end up being exceptions. It's like today or Thursday. And I try to block out anywhere from 3 to 7 to go on listing appointments or showings. I try to keep those in the afternoon. Tuesdays and Thursdays, I try to.
Hey, Lonnie, I think your mic is messed up or like maybe blocked or something.
Sorry, let me switch it over. I'll switch mics.
Is that better?
Much better.
Is that better? Okay, good. Yeah, so I was just saying I try to put some lead gen in the afternoon or in the evenings, just to try to get a hold of people who don't answer the phone, which in New Jersey, for some reason, people don't seem to want to answer the phone ever, unless they're a FISBO. But
I think that's a national pandemic.
I can't get a hold of people. It's frustrating. And then like Chris was saying, for when I'm driving, like I've got a buyer that is looking at homes that's almost or over an hour away from me. So I try to listen to the skill bridge trainings while I'm driving. I try to do a lot of that kind of passive listening while I'm doing chores, cutting the grass, driving, whatever. Whether it's listening to an audiobook or listening to training or some other sort of real estate related podcasts, I try to do those passive things while I'm doing other chores just to save time. And then obviously you see down there at the bottom, family time, dinner time. It's kind of non-negotiable unless my wife tells me otherwise. So I try to keep my schedule pretty simple just to help me stay on track throughout the day. So yeah, that's what I got.
Sweet. Thank you, Lonnie.
Yeah.
A couple of things that I wanted to highlight on what you talked about. So like we saw Chris likes to listen to things while he's driving and kind of like always taking in information, which it might be like a seasonal thing in your life. Like you might be in a phase, and I'm talking not just to Lonnie, but to everybody, and also to myself. Like there are phases where I'm at the gym and I just don't want to listen to anything, or I want to listen to just like instrumentals, like no words at all. And then there's other times where I want to listen to like really loud, energetic, like electronic music, just kind of crazy noises that just get my blood pumping, whatever. But it's a continually evolving process, and it might be evolving like on a monthly schedule or like a yearly or even over the course of a decade or your whole life. And because I know for me at least, a lot of parts of my schedule shift because of the daylight hours and because Hawaii doesn't deal with daylight savings, and so sometimes I adjust my schedule or adjust what I'm doing on a daily basis based off of when majority of our clients are waking up on the mainland, and then also everything else. But back to what Lonnie was talking about, um, you know, you just got to observe yourself and observe like how you're feeling when you're doing those things, and see like what kind of adjustments you might need to make to get the most out of it. And so if you're working out and you're like forcing yourself to listen to stuff and you're not enjoying it, then maybe take a break, see how it feels to not listen to anything, and just do what Lonnie does and just kind of let your brain kind of wander and solve its problems. And then maybe later on it'll shift back and forth. Um, and then another thing, I like that you prep for your lead gen. And so I know when I was first starting out, I would put lead gen on my schedule, and then that time would come and I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna generate some leads. And then I'd like search, how do I generate leads? And then before I know it, like an hour has gone by and I'm like, well, I spent like an hour on Google and didn't generate any leads. This is not going well. But then I heard about like people that you like on your schedule, you put a detailed plan, maybe not waste too much time putting the detail in, but have a action plan of what you're going to do. All right, it's now 11 o'clock. I'm going to call these 5 numbers or however many numbers you're going to call, or I'm going to call this list of FISBOs or this list of whatever. You already have your plan set up. So all you got to do is just hit the button to start dialing. Because if you leave it vague and you're just like, oh, I'm going to do lead gen during this time, then chances are you're going to get some kind of distraction. You're going to get a notification on your phone. Might even be like a beneficial to your business notification, like, oh, hey, somebody just liked your profile and said they want to talk to you about buying a house. And then you go to their profile and you're like, who's this person? Oh, it looks like we have friends in common. Oh, I haven't seen that friend in a while. And then before you know it, your entire lead gen time was wasted. So thank you for sharing that. It's definitely good to prep for what you're doing and have like a plan going into each of those parts of your schedule.
You know, for me, because I work with Bright MLS and Bright doesn't like to cooperate with other companies, I have to go in and manually pull my expires every morning and load them into Espresso Agent. And that if it's the first of the month, it could take 15 or 20 minutes for it to load and pull all the data and all that. So if I wait till 8, it could be 8:30 before I'm actually calling and those expires are gone.
Yep, early bird gets the worm. And he learned that by making that mistake in the past. And so if you have that like, mental diary of learning from mistakes you're making along the way, you'll continually get better. So definitely keep track of how things are going. All right. And yeah, Andrea Camarena, today was her last stage. She said she wasn't going to make it. And I don't see Carlos in here. Nope, it's not here. And Brandon Duffy is not here either. So I'll just give you guys a quick rundown of my morning routine. I'm gonna drop a little slide deck in, or actually I'm just gonna share my screen. For those of you who haven't been exposed to Canva yet, it's a great tool. Highly recommend it. There's a free version and there's also a paid version. I've had the paid version because it has a lot more features built into it, but it's definitely something worth looking into so you don't have to waste time making presentations from complete scratch. And it's also like social media, videos, like everything you need is on here. But anyways, so my approach to waking up with peace and like we've already talked about, it's a continually evolving process, refining how you approach each day. A quick little side note as I jump into this, like the reason why I do this is to, it's like I know where I'm going. So like what Chris talked about, like having a direction for your day by looking at your goals. And so when I first got into like thinking about this and like making a thing of it, because like some people, to them, it's just like, oh, I just exist. I just wake up and I do things. But if you put thought into it, you'll get a lot more out of it. And so there was a point about a year ago where I was just like feeling a lot of anxiety of like, oh, I go to these fast forward movements meetings and these people are talking about all this coaching that they're doing and all this lead gen that they're doing. And they signed up for all these different lead sources and blah, 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 blah. And I just kind of felt like overwhelmed by that. And then I came across this verse and it talks about like, do not worry about what you're going to eat, where you're going to sleep, what you're going to wear. Like basically don't have anxiety, but it's like, okay, how do I just not have anxiety? And this answer is seek first. So seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. And so now I have that mindset of seeking first. And the way I do that is through how I structure my day. So general guideposts for structuring your day, stay flexible, but commit to keeping the key elements of the structure. So like when something happens and Chris has to rush back to school to pick up his kids, or Lonnie has to go to a doctor's appointment for whatever kind of non-negotiable thing that gets added into a schedule, whatever. It doesn't don't let it completely throw off your day. Like if you have that general structure in place, then you'll be able to recover most of it when life's distractions come at you. And same thing, like if you don't get the best sleep the night before, you can still you already have that structure in place, and so you just kind of follow along with it. Another thing is to have an open mind, but practice discernment. So you might hear some kind of recommendations from people. So one of my good friends, he was actually an Army veteran, and he's kind of like really deep into like the hippie type stuff, and so he has a lot of interesting recommendations for me, and like other people you might talk to have recommendations for events that happen in various locations around the world. But yeah, have discernment in if those things are actually going to be fruitful for you, and have some kind of sounding board, whether it's your friends or whether it's through prayer or through reading God's word. Have something that helps you to evaluate if something is actually going to be good for you or not. And then the last one is to trust but verify. So a lot of times you talk with people and you're like, yeah, so I started doing this CrossFit routine where, we just work out for 5 hours straight. And the doctor says it's really good for your body, or like they say it's really good for your body. And so you want to ask yourself, who's they? Like, where's that information coming from? Because yeah, when I was getting out of the military, I started to ask that about a lot of things, like why, what's the reason for that? Who's the person that said that, and why? What's that based on? And so when you're incorporating new things into your schedule, like understand the reason for it. And I'll kind of give you an example of that as I dive into my daily routine. And I'm just going to kind of whiz through this, but if anyone wants to talk in detail about any of these things, I'm more than happy to talk about it. I'm sure Chris and Lonnie would also be more than happy to talk about their daily routines and why they do those things at the time that they do them. But yeah, just putting a lot of thought and detail into everything. So like one of the things I'm talking about is coffee. So when I make coffee, I make it in a little espresso machine. And there's times in the year where I drink it cold in the morning, and there's times in the year when I drink it hot. And there's also times where I put ice in it, like all the different things. And it all comes down to like how I'm, like what kind of end state that I want. But if I just think, oh, coffee, and just drink it, it might upset my stomach based off on the temperature or whatever. But if you put thought into those details, you can ensure you're maintaining that consistent, effective day. So, like it says right here on the slide, it starts the night before, and Chris and Lonnie both kind of hinted at it of their sleep schedule. And so, at 7 p.m. I have a notification on my phone switches into like bedtime mode, and silences notifications, all that stuff. We take our dog for a walk. I take a shower after we get back because I'm usually kind of, even if I don't work out or like do anything super active, I'm usually a little bit sweaty and sticky feeling. And so it helps my sleep if I like freshly showered and my comfortable pajama clothes. And that's kind of setting your body up, getting ready for the bedtime. And there's also like other studies about like turning the lights down and stuff like that, or turning your phone into night mode, all that stuff. Brush my teeth, do everything else I need to do to get ready for bed. A nose strip. I don't know if you guys have heard of the breathe right strips. Kind of goes over the bridge of your nose, opens up your nose so you can breathe better. I did boxing in college. My nose is kind of messed up. And I think a lot of people actually have some nasal breathing problems, but don't realize it. And so if you put on a nose strip, it opens up your nose and allows you to take in a lot more oxygen. And that's like a whole nother topic I could dive into about like how oxygen is received better through your nose than through your mouth, and the structuring of your jawline, all that stuff. Yeah, do not disturb, get switched on my phone. And then I try to kind of terminate my screen time at that point. 7:45, I'm prepping my coffee for the next day. So if I'm drinking cold coffee the next day, then I'll make the coffee that time. If I'm wanting hot coffee in the morning, like if during the winter months, I'll just leave it ready. So all I have to do is walk by the machine and hit start. I'll take 5 milligrams of magnesium. I went through a whole cycle of like lots of melatonin and magnesium, just magnesium, nothing at all. And now I'm at just 1 5 milligram pill of magnesium to help me get to sleep with a glass of water. I put 1 glass of water because if I drink too much water, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and have to alleviate my bladder. 8 p.m. That's my goal bedtime. Most of the time, it's like 8:45 or 9 by the time I'm actually in bed. But that's my goal bedtime. I turn the AC on because I sleep better when it's cool, or turn the fan on as well. I try to get the lights off completely, and I have a little reading light that I use to read my Bible. That was like another like
rain, go away, come again another day.
That was like another like monumental, really small change in what I do, like having that night light to read instead of all the lights on, because I would go from full lights reading and turn the lights off, and I would still feel like fully awake. But using that night light, which actually has like an orange type color to it, it really helps with just like sometimes I'm almost like falling asleep as I'm reading. Um, I wear an eye cover. This is kind of also evolved as well. I know some people have like the little eye-shaped goggle-looking sleep cover. I tried that for a while, didn't work. And what I'm at now that is working the best, it's actually like an earmuff headband. But instead of it going over my forehead, I slide it down, put it over my eyes. And for whatever reason, I just need pressure on my eyeballs to like feel at peace and like be able to fall asleep. So that's what I use to help get to sleep and also blocks out light. And then also just breathing, because a lot of times you can go throughout the entire day, and like right now I'm kind of out of breath from just talking and not taking deep breaths. But when you lay down and you're finally ready to fall asleep, you can just take some deep breaths and just kind of flips the switch in your mind and in your body that you're ready for bedtime and get some quality sleep. Because when I was in the military, I was averaging like 3, maybe 4 hours of sleep a night, and now I'm probably closer to about 6 hours. But it's been a process to get to that, and I'm sure a lot of you have some kind of issues with your sleep. And then fast forward to the next morning. So I'm now at waking up at 3:30. For a while, I was waking up at 4:30, and then I was I felt like I was in a rush trying to cram everything into that like 2 hour block before I would go, or a 1 hour block before I'd go to work out. So I bumped it up a little bit earlier, but it might sound super early, but if you look at the time frame of when I'm actually in bed or aiming to be in bed, 8 p.m. to 3:30 p.m., that's 7.5 hours. So that's plenty of time to get a good night's rest. But it's just a matter of starting that day before and getting to bed early. One recommendation on that is just to just force it to happen. Like even if you don't get to bed a decent hour, get out of bed the time you want to get out of bed. Otherwise, it'll just be an ongoing cycle of chasing that bedtime. Because if you wake up when you want to wake up, by the time bedtime comes around, you'll actually be tired. Otherwise, if you sleep in, it'll be 8, 9, 10, and you'll be like, oh, I'm still not that tired. And then next morning, it'll be a repeating cycle. Yeah, alarm goes off. I pray. I relieve my bladder of that water that's stored up over the evening. I drink vinegar water that helps get my bowel movements going so I can be cleansed before I get my workout in. I grab my coffee, whether that's the cold coffee or brewing it on the machine. I turn on our orange salt lamps. Just having that little bit of light so I can see, and not having this flipped on the full lights. But also it's just kind of peaceful to start the day with that calming tone of light. Grab a hoodie because it's kind of cold because we still have the AC on because my wife is still sleeping. And I'll either put the AC to a slightly warmer temperature so it's not blowing cold air, or I'll turn it off completely. And then I'll do 50 push-ups. I do 50 push-ups just for one, to get the body going, get the blood flowing, and two, there's something about how it shifts your mind. Like I go from the mindset of, oh, I kind of want to get back into bed and just sleep and rest because my body needs it, to I'm ready to take on this day. I'm ready to, get after it, see what text messages I have, what emails I have, who I need to reach out to, what problems I need to solve. And all that happens just from doing those push-ups. And also, by the time my blood is cooling off from doing those 50 push-ups, the caffeine from the coffee is kicking in, and so it ensures that I actually do continue with my day instead of trying to sneak in a little power nap. So by the time I do all that stuff, put my hoodie on, AC, etc., it's about 3:35. So I'll pray again. I'll pray for understanding as I'm reading the Bible. And then after I read the Bible, so I'm on like a Bible in the year plan. It takes like 15, 20 minutes to read that section. And then I'll meditate on that, on what I just read, but also just sit there and let just kind of exist for 10, maybe 15 minutes and just do some deep breathing. And one little thing I've heard on how to like meditate effectively is to imagine a leaf just flowing down a stream and just focus on that leaf, and your brain is naturally going to bounce all over the place, think about like, why am I sitting here, how my knees kind of hurt, like all these random thoughts. But if you just kind of bring it back to that leaf flowing down a stream, it helps you to just get your mind settled and in the right position for starting the day. I'll do some quick journaling right after that, just whatever comes to mind. Usually only a couple sentences, and then some names of people that I'm praying for. And then after that, so it's not until probably 3:45, 4 o'clock is the first time I'll actually check my phone. So when I silence my alarm, all I do is hit off, and that's it. I don't look at any notifications on there, because if you look at any notification, you're naturally going to start, your brain's going to start brewing. Like somebody asks you some random question, you're like, oh crap, I need to get back to that person or whatever it is, and it's going to just completely throw off your getting started routine. And then after that, I'll put a podcast on and start tidying the house, because if you're working from home, your house can be a big distraction. That's one reason. Then another reason is it just feels good to like kind of put things back in order, kind of like decluttering and getting rid of old stuff that you don't need. It's kind of brings peace doing that. After that, I'll put on my workout clothes, and then I'll go over to our bedroom. I'll pray before I read the Bible with my wife. And then after that, I'm off to the Lanakai Pillbox hike, where I do my sunrise trail run. After that, most of the time I'll go down to the ocean, jump in, do some breathing in the ocean. And then after that, head home. I put radio blaring because I'll blare stuff that is productive. And so that might be different in your mind, but for me, I'll blare whatever sermon's on the radio, and it just kind of feels good to share that message with people that need to hear it. And then after that, I'll get home. I'll take a quick shower, and jumping in the ocean helps cool down my body temperature, so I don't jump in the shower and I'm still sweating when I get out, and then I just kind of stink the rest of the day. So after that shower, I'll get dressed. And I put a plus sign there to remind me to say I get dressed like I have an appointment. And so if you get dressed and you just put on your PJs again or your workout clothes, depending on what you have planned out for that day, that works. But if you get dressed like you're going to work, it helps you get in that mindset of, I'm going to actually be productive and get things done today, because it can be really easy, especially when you're working from home, to be comfortable and just kind of drift through your day, not get anything done. And then we'll take our dog for a walk. As we're walking, we'll talk about our plan for the day, what clients we need to follow up with, what problems we need to solve, etc. And then once we get back, I'll have a quick breakfast snack. So I just eat 2 Aussie bites. It's these little granola seed muffin things, about 100 calories each. And I kind of do intermittent fasting, not super dedicated to it. But it's my general diet is I eat very minimally throughout the day and just eat one really big meal for dinner. But yeah, to get the hunger pain to go away, so I'm not just thinking about food, I'll eat a couple of Aussie bites and drink some water. And then after that, I'll take a look at my schedule, clear my email, and make that first phone call. And I put this line here to make the point that it's not first phone calls. It's just first phone call, like just focusing on that first step. Because for me, if I'm like, all right, now I'm gonna make 50 phone calls, it's like, holy crap, I'm gonna do something else before I start that, because that's just gonna not be enjoyable. But if it's just one call, just one number that I'm gonna call, whether it's prospecting or if it's just following up with a lead, or reaching out to a loan officer to ask them what the status is of the financing approval, whatever. Just that first phone call just to start the momentum. And then I actually have reminders set up in my calendar to breathe, because a lot of times, like I said, you can go throughout the day and taking really short breaths, and your day could be going perfectly smooth, but you like have this feeling of like anxiety because you're not taking deep breaths. And so I have a couple of reminders on my phone to just take 2 minutes and just, you can even do it right now. And just after one breath, you can feel the difference. And so if you remind yourself to do that, it'll kind of become part of your routine, where you'll be driving and you realize you're feeling like this feeling of anxiety. And then you'll just take those breaths and everything will smooth out. And that is all I've got for my morning routine. We're going to continue this series for probably one more meeting, and then move on to other topics. But does anyone have any questions about my day or anyone else's day?
So, would you be comfortable sending your presentation out on Slack?
Yeah, definitely. I'll post it on there. Alrighty. Anyone else want to volunteer to share their routine if they feel like they have some stuff to contribute, or just want to share it so that we can give recommendations, whatever you have in mind, we're open to it. Alrighty. So we'll see you guys next week, and we'll be continuing the series of scheduling of architecture, whatever I said. I'm blanking on how I titled it. Realtor schedule architecture. And we'll just continue this topic so that you guys can have a method to the madness for how you start each day, and how you continually shape your day so that you can get the most out of life and help others do the same. Have a wonderful week.